Hi guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles, the channel where I decide to talk about everything that is anime and ramen. And I have got a very special video which will cover both coming up for my birthday, so keep an eye out on this channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed. I've got a lot of good content coming your way. And we've got another video for What's in this Design already recorded and ready to go up next week. So lots to go on. There is a Discord channel for you guys to join and you can ask me questions. You also get notified whenever a video goes up on the channel. And I also tell you guys if there's any delay or if I just bounce ideas off you guys. So it's a fun place to be. I am back now for another episode of The Promised Neverland, Season 2, Episode 2. And this episode's got a very different feel to it. And I've got only 3 pages of notes, so it's actually one of the shorter scripts. But I think there's a lot of nice key points that I want to discuss. We don't waste any time of jumping straight back in, but we are immediately given a name for our demon girl who we met last week. Her name is Mujika. It starts again with the tension building, so we're back with her kind of almost pranking. It feels like she's pulling a bit of a prank, even though it's a little bit distasteful. Seeing the two worked up, starting to realise that they might be in danger, she just smiles. So the entire scene starts to build with some tension. We get smiles, we get a bit of bad timing as Sonju arrives behind him carrying his weapon. He does say that he's carrying a weapon and what if the kids touch it. He kind of like trails off though, so it's interesting to know what would happen if a kid touches your weapon, or is it just you being overprotective and caring that the kids might hurt themselves. But as the scene starts to build up and we see those worried looks upon the two's faces, everybody is in fact okay, as promised, which is quite interesting because the word promise is going to be a key thing for this episode. Let's quickly look at Mujika because now we've got a full design for her, and look at that purple hair of hers. Her purple hair representing tranquility, calm, a more spiritual or supernatural feel to her, and it's also a very positive sign. It's also a magical colour as well. She does actually apologise for scaring them, and she says, I don't want to hurt you, so we don't eat humans. And my initial thoughts that Sonju himself, I think he's quite a cool, chill character. He doesn't say a lot, but he seems pretty chill. I like his design. We've got that beautiful red hair as well, which could be a sign of danger, but it could also just be a sign of passion, fiery. It could be the fact that he is just a very bright and active character. I mean, he is pretty active. He teaches everybody everything. Also, in some of the lights where we see him, it looks more pink. When it is coming across with the pink in it, pink is a gentle colour, so he comes across a bit more gentle. Everybody starts to pray for food. And this does lean back into what I just said about Mujika and her hair being spiritual, supernatural colours. The fact that as well, in the OP, I pointed out last week, just because I circled it, as I was actually putting the picture up, I noticed it. Her shadow in this sequence represents a cross. We've already seen these guys as well in the OP. The demons were praying before God before they eat their food. I can see where I think the anime is gonna start to pull on some interesting strings, because I think I know where it's going with this, and I've picked up on it just by the visuals. With the seeing the demons performing this prayer before God, the demons appear more innocent, a bit more humane, a bit more in common with the kids, as we think, because the kids too also pray before their foods. And we start to see the conflict shown on Emma's face. She also is confused as well because the food that she's eating, which has been served up by the demons, made by the demons, tastes good. So there is that confliction on her face as she doesn't quite know what to do now because she's shocked. Up until this point, these guys have been the enemy. Suddenly, that's not the case. That's not as black and white as they first thought. We get a meeting between Sonju where Sonju basically sets the story straight. Emma gets some kudos here for being very mature. She apologises for prejudging him. We work out the reasons why the two do not eat meat, or do not eat humans specifically. They do eat meat, but not human meat. And it's for religious reasons. Coming back to that visual of the OP as a cross, her shadow was the cross as she walked away. They do note, however, that they are the heretics of their society, so we know this is not the norm. These guys are kind of like vegetarians in a sense. The majority of people out in the world probably eat meat, but vegetarians make up that slowly building minority, so obviously it's growing in numbers now, but originally right at the start when it became a thing, it would have been not the norm. So I think it's similar in that sense, that these guys are a rare case. We can probably chalk up that there's not many people, many more demons like them who don't eat humans. He says that he rescued them because he is also curious about humans. So we start to get some answers to questions that we've had for a while now, like the 30-year marker, which actually turns out to just be a random number, which is, I wonder if it is a random number or if it's a random number to Sonju and he doesn't recognize that 30 means anything. That the world has always been this way, so it's not just a thing that changed within 30 years, it's always been this way. And the year is 2046. So there's only 25 years to go, guys. We're all going to suddenly be in this split world. Maybe we are living in the human side, who knows? It's just the tale we get treated to, that the demons have always hunted the humans. Some started to fight back, where the resentment started to cycle around, where the two would just hunt and kill one another. Eventually, it was indeed the humans which proposed an agreement. This is the promise, guys, that actual promise. Neither side would hunt the other, and they would segregate their own world. They would create the world of two. You get the human side, the demon side. They are currently located within the demon side, so that leaves the possibility, is there a human side? The demons don't hunt, but they do breed. So they breed humans for consumption. So there's specific humans who they will eat. And they've had this agreement going for about 1,000 years. So this leads to the question as well, is Minerva dead or is Minerva a demon? That has been playing on my mind a little bit. I cut it out of last week because the episode was long enough as it was. I'm starting to wonder if Minerva is a demon. The fact as well must mean that the humans on the human side of the world must be aware that the demons are growing humans as well, just for eating pleasure. They must be aware of this. The humans must be okay with this. This is also going to set up the more complications down the line that the demons need to eat, especially with what we learn a bit later on with the religious side as well. This is going to make things a little bit more tricky because it's not just a case of saving people now. It's going to be a case of having to come up with a solution that both sides are probably going to be agree on, because sure, the humans don't want to die. The humans don't want to be eaten. But as Emma says later on in the episode, that they need to eat to survive. So some things are starting to get a bit more tricky. The promise as well has been slap bang in our faces in the title. It is indeed the Promised Neverland. The word promise being in the title in our faces for nearly a season and a half now. And it's just the reaction to learning the truth. We finally have the truth and we see both Ray and Emma literally leaping with joy, with relief, because that must mean there has to be a separate human world somewhere. Sonju, however, tells them that part of the agreement is that the humans who are being bred for food cannot cross over. So there's been no one crossing over into either world for over 1,000 years. He promises to also take the group to the exit, whilst he will also learn and teach them things. But it does feel like things are starting to go a little bit too smoothly. And of course they're going too smoothly because suddenly we get a shot of our pursuers, the bad demons, who find Ray's message carved in the tree, telling somebody or pursuers to go to 10632. It is going to be interesting to note if these numbers actually mean something more. Maybe they're verses in the Bible or something. That would be interesting. You guys know those answers. Whether 10632, like, is that chapter 106, verse 32? Who knows, perhaps. It puts a little question mark in my brain because it reads a bit weird. It's just the way it says pursuers underneath. Is Ray leaving this for the kids or is this a note for the pursuers? I mean, it's probably a note for the kids, but it's a bit worrying on either side because even if it was for the kids, the pursuers now know Minerva's coordinates, so they're going to be following them regardless. But if he did leave it, it's just the way it reads is a little bit odd. But then again, he was rushed for time. We cut to another section where Sonju is actually surprised that the children know about the anemones, which points to the fact that Minerva has to be a demon. I think he's a demon. He has to be because he's left all this information about the demon world for the kids. And the fact that nobody has gone between the worlds for 1,000 years, if what he is saying is true, of course, that must mean he has to be a demon. Sonju's tale just simply conflicts the fact that they've read in books. All the books don't match up. So is it a case of Attack on Titan where the history books are altered just so we can hide the truth? Or is there some variance going on where one is true and one is not? The way Sonju's design is and the way he is at the moment, I don't see what he would gain from telling a lie because he didn't need to save them in the first place. So I don't know if he's the one lying. It might just be a case that the books are written to hide the truth. However, the kids still need to find Minerva. But this is setting up a overall arching plan in their heads that they want to go to the human world, set up, then go back and rescue Phil and all the other children because they find out, of course, that there are more than just one of these orphanages, one of these farms. It's going to make things a bit awkward because they're going to be breaking a promise. They're going to be breaking a 1,000-year promise which might cause a war. because if the humans are alive, they are clearly aware of the farms going on, but they also honor the agreement because they themselves don't want to be eaten. It's going to be very interesting because we can start seeing where the tensions are going to lie in the plot a bit further down the line. We are taught by Sonju the layout that the kids want to go southeast, but he does say that if you head straight down there, you're going to walk straight into a bunch of demon territories. Note that is where the coordinates lead them, so Minerva has to be a demon. If he's not, though, I'm going to be very shocked. But he tells them that we need to go north to go down because simply there is just a wasteland there, so it is a lot more safer. And he offers to teach all of the children. All of the children start to learn to survive. Sonju is wearing the colour yellow on his cape. I think it looks yellow in the light. It could be a bit more browner out in the normal light, but it does appear yellow at times. Yellow is a very childish, carefree, positive colour. It's a really nice colour to have. Yellow is a really good one. It's also a sign of friendship. If you want to give flowers to just a friend, yellow is a good colour to choose. I do feel like he means well. I don't think I actively distrust him yet. There's nothing that immediately tells me to distrust this character. We get a nice moment where Gilda scolds Emma for bearing it all and basically not telling anybody that she felt sick. And Gilda is scary when she's angry. Ray, too, takes his turn to be yelled at by the younger members of the group because he basically set himself up to die once again. I like the fact that they consult Sonju and he's like, oh yeah, he totally would have died. And it's just a nice little moment of just seeing the two species interacting harmlessly, almost faultlessly. That they in season 1 they were enemies. Now, just a little bit of interaction, they are actually talking to each other, having little light-hearted jokes. It is a heartfelt moment, and we can see that the bond between the group is starting to grow. They are their own little family. Ray decides to cook, and he shocks absolutely everybody because the boy can actually cook. Let's quickly talk about Mujika's outfit because I felt like it was nice to put it in as we get a back look of the outfit. It's very spiritual. It's got lots of different layers of fabric. It's hiding something as well because there's no skin on show. So it's a very covered up, a very respectful outfit. It gradients into purple, into blues, some very tranquil, very religious colours. Blue as well is reliable and trustworthy. So she's got some really nice colours going on with her. I like the colour schemes for her. Time starts to pass. We see some really relaxed, chilled sequences where we see the two species starting to learn and teach one another. Also as well, note that they pair it up with some really nice guitar music. It's very, very chill. It does feel like we've gone into an open world game and we're just like roaming around, exploring, maybe even Breath of the Wild style. It's peaceful. It's just a really peaceful section, but the pace starts to change when Sonju says, I'm going to go and scout, and Emma asks to join him. Once more, we get thrown back into our open world, full beautiful live nature world with the lights, the beautiful shots of just nature in general. There is suddenly no music, just nature. All we hear is birds singing. We hear music, the babbling of the river. And then we start to hit more symbolism. So the symbolism comes back right at the end. We see the equivalent of a mink in this world carrying a dead butterfly and its wings start to fall down. Dead butterfly with its wings falling to the floor is simply foreshadowing, and it does foreshadow the next sequence. It's a negative image. The butterfly generally represents freedom and life, where the dead butterfly basically showing us that freedom is now being torn away from something, which leads into that exact thing, how to kill a living thing. The one thing that Emma asks Sonju. We get a very nice line when Emma does actually falter initially. He says, if you do not fight, you cannot protect anyone, your family, anything. And this next sequence is absolutely gorgeous. I adore this sequence. Just the way that the bow is raised. We hear that gorgeous... I know there's a proper sound for it when the bow string comes back and you hear the tension, the creak in the string. I like that. The bow is released. We get a beautiful inlaid shot of her face and it goes out. We fly with the arrow. We see the bird's eye coming closer and closer, and then it turns into a water drop simply falling down into the river. It's a visualization as well of the life force kind of falling to earth and the bird itself presumably falling down as it's struck by the arrow. And then we hit to a visual of those red flowers. Obviously, in this world, we have currently associated these red flowers with death. People keep sending me memes as well of like, these are nice flowers. And then we see these flowers and everyone's screaming because it's this dark flower. These flowers became a bit of a meme during the break whilst we were waiting for season 2. But it's still really peaceful. Note that the music is still peaceful. The music is tranquil. It's really peaceful. Where we start to learn about a very important key religious practice called Gunpa. this plant as well. Back in episode 1, the first plant they actually zoomed in on as the kids are walking through was a white plant. And I think I've even mentioned it last episode. I was like, oh, we got a visual of a plant here. Not actually realising how important that it was. This is that vampiric plant before, obviously, it's been shoved into somebody's chest. And it's actually called Vida. It could be a variation on the word life, because like Viva is life, the waters of life. I think this word has something very similar to do with the word life. So the demons would pierce the prey with the branch. This then dedicates their food to the gods. This has been something that we have seen already throughout season 1. However, because we don't understand it, it has been something quite shocking, something quite scary, where the demons simply do this to drain the blood and also preserve the meat, but also to respect their gods. Something so barbaric, something that the kids have also seen recently as well, because Emma initially sees the flower and it literally kind of spooks her. We've all presumed that it's something quite dark, something quite scary, but no, with us starting to learn, it's actually a ritual that is prepared very respectfully. Right up until this point, we have feared this plant, but now we are learning about it. Once you start to learn about something, it becomes less scary. But again, it doesn't kind of make the idea that this plant sucks out blood any less scary. It's still a very scary plant, okay? Emma doesn't initially perform the ritual where she actually comes down to pray, and she says, I don't want to be eaten, but we do the same thing. We can't survive if we don't eat. And this is that conflict that is starting to build. And I think that's the route this anime is going to take, is this conflicted idea. So what we simply want is the kids to escape. But if the kids escape, and let's say that these demons do need to eat human, even though it is questionable that these two are surviving happily without eating human meat. Now that we've met these two, it kind of raises the question whether they can actually live without eating humans. That's where the conflict's coming in. But then we just get silence. And this next scene as well, handled absolutely perfectly. Pure silence, no music, just the sound effects of as Emma raises the plant, stabs the bird in the heart. We just hear that thunking sound. And then we go once more to a drop hitting the river. That life itself is being extinguished and it joins the river. That many things also to rejoin the river. You go back to nature, essentially. I think that's essentially what it wants to suggest, that things all return to the same place after all. Emma ends up throwing up after the whole ordeal because she remembers seeing Connie with the flower, her heart pierced by that flower. That is when Sonju ends up comforting Emma and maybe half of the audience as well. The flower and the action of Gunpa doesn't actually work unless it's done with respect. So every single sibling we have seen die, who have been murdered, even the nanny as well, they have been respectfully killed. We get a very powerful visual. This is probably going to be my thumbnail of Emma kneeling, praying before the flower, this beautiful, vibrant, red, scary flower. And we've got this light just falling upon her. And it's a really stunning shot to end on as well, where at first that this flower was kind of seen as something dark, quite scary and quite almost demonic. It's now we're starting to realize that things aren't exactly what they have been led us to believe. There's more going on behind the scenes as well. But it's a nice sequence of Sonju actually comforting Emma. So again, my respect for the character is starting to grow. I starting to warm to Sonju. End sequence where it's hinted, we've got a bit of foreshadowing. Ray is washing apples. The river looks a bit red. There's a little tint of red going on. And then he looks up to see Emma has returned, obviously with the meat. We get to see that Emma looks away from everybody because they ask her if she's okay. She says she's fine. But we can see that the character has suddenly turned a path. She has changed. There's been development. Her character has grown. Ray also notices this as well. But it's a sign that our characters are going to have to grow up. They're going to have to survive. They're going to have to start to change their worldviews and their perspectives a little bit. And obviously this is going to be that season where that happens, where we start to learn that the world isn't quite as black and white as it appears. I really enjoyed this week's episode. I think it's nice to have occasionally a quieter episode. And of course we've learned quite a bit, which is quite startling, and some very game-changing information that the demons may not be as demonic as we're thinking. But as well, now that we've met two demons who vow not to eat meat, human meat, it's going to be interesting to see if that could be a route that we maybe eventually hit. But it's going to be more conflicting now. So things just got a little bit more complicated learning some of this information. We've got some really interesting new characters coming along. I like both the characters we've been introduced to. I am very excited to see where the story takes us. I've got a few hints and a few ideas where I think it's going to go. So it's going to be interesting to see how right or wrong I am. I hope you guys are looking after yourselves. Tell me in the comments below, do you like Sonju? Do you like Mujika? What do you think about the two new characters? Also, kudos to you if you can try doing it without spoilers. Bear in mind, we're all about no spoilers right now. So on general, with the 2 episodes we've had, what are your overall thoughts on Sonju and Mujika? Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Give me a like if you have learnt anything or enjoyed this episode. Take care. Bye-bye.